Welcome to Guns, Guns, Gear, and Guns with Gary Gunderson. I am Gary Gunderson. I recently visited the National World War I Museum in Kansas City, which, if you have never been, is definitely worth checking out. They recently unveiled a new exhibit, Encounters, Their War, Their Words, as they call it, where it takes actors in period costumes reciting lines from real people's journals or letters from during or after the war, and then a brief biography of what happened to them afterwards, if they know. The room has 4 stations, and each station plays 4 different videos on a loop. It is set up with directional audio. They even say to stand in a diamond projected on the ground for the best experience, so you don't really hear the audio from the other screens, or at least not much.
The band playing Home Sweet Home. The people of New York certainly gave us a hearty reception.
It's an interesting setup and definitely different from anything I've seen in any other museum before. They do some cool things with the lighting. The figures on the screen cast shadows on the ground, and they have shadows walking along the walls where there are not any screens. It's a little confusing if you don't know what you're walking into. There's not really a lot of signage or anything telling you, oh, there's 4 videos per station, each station is different. They also didn't seem quite in sync, so that worked out perfectly. You watched all at one station and went exactly to the next. I think they want to be without signage in general and more about the videos, but I also think a little more could be helpful. I watched all of the videos, but from my time in the room, I could tell most did not. They watched some and then left. Knowing what other stories are there, or even maybe being able to skip around to see the ones you're more interested in, could help with engagement and keep people in there longer. But then, of course, you might lose people once they see the ones they want and aren't interested in the others. There is one main screen at each station, and it is surrounded by other smaller screens, but I think the secondary screens are generally underutilized. They are mostly for ambiance instead of adding to the testimony on screen. One example where they made a good use of it, a German U-boat captain describes a destroyer shooting at them, and there's an image of a destroyer through a periscope shooting on one of the secondary screens. I wish they had done more like that, showing more scenes as they are being described. Also, the video of a chaplain projected church windows onto the floor, and I looked around after at others, and I didn't see any other of the videos do that at all, which is another interesting feature they could play with more. I admittedly may have missed another instance of this, as I didn't even notice it until I had seen most of the things, but I looked around after and didn't see any more. This didn't bother me, but to watch all the videos at each location is maybe 5 minutes per, but there's no seating, so people who have trouble standing still the whole time may have an issue with that. It's a little cramped, it's not a lot of room there. I know it's not a big space in general, and that's as many as they probably could fit in that space to get the most out of this kind of unique exhibit. I'd also like to see more focus on soldiers and battles in this exhibit. For instance, an account of a specific battle, and on the surrounding screens show footage of that battle, the battle lines on a map. Having some of the stories rotate in and out would also be cool, because if you visit 6 months or a year from now, you could see some different stories. Of the 16 accounts currently there, around half are from combatants, while the others are generally from the home front. And I understand wanting to get a breadth of points of view, but we are mostly here to learn about the soldiers and battles, or at least I know I am and the people I went with are. It's not like the others are bad, but that would be my preference. Some I'd like to know more about, but there's not really a place that directs you to in the museum or elsewhere. There's one where a little boy witnesses an enemy blimp called the Baby Killer get shot down. Tell me more about that. I'd like to get directed to more information, maybe something else in the museum about that, but it just doesn't have that. I think this sort of exhibit that tries to bring people from history to life is really unique and an interesting way to get people interested who may be fatigued from reading all the signs in the museum at that point. I like the idea, I like the execution. I just think it could be a little bit better or a little more interesting if you had more control, know what you have going into it. And I know not just this exhibit, but the museum in general, there's limited space, limited attention spans, so you have to make tough decisions on what you include, exclude, and focus on. But I think you could walk through the museum, read most of the information, and walk away not really knowing a single battle. Maybe that's just what I'm drawn to, but something I definitely noticed. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff there about the soldiers, uniforms, weapons, specific kit. There's even a tank. It's a good museum. It's definitely worth checking out. I know they're trying. They even corrected a mistake I had seen from the last time I was there. Overall, good museum, a definite stop for any fan of history or firearms. And I do like this new Encounters exhibit, but I think a few tweaks could help elevate it to the next level. But that's just my opinion. What do you think of the museum if you visited? Do you have plans to visit? Did you see this Encounters, and what did you think of it? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it to the end of the video, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel, or supporting me on Patreon to help the channel grow. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.